Hello, everyone. Is everyone there?
Hi.
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 Hi. Welcome
Well,
back. It's Virginia Stanley, Lainey Mays, and Grace Caternolo, the Library Love Fest team at HarperCollins. And we are here for another episode, Galley Gab Fest, where we talk about books that are coming up and just things in general that we're excited about. And we have a really wonderful guest today. We have Juan Mila, who's the editorial director of Harper Via, an imprint of HarperCollins. And Juan's going to tell us about some really neat books he's got coming out in the coming months. So, but before we bring Juan on, first, thanks so much for watching. If you're watching, if you're not, why aren't you? And we just want to give you a little bit of housekeeping. So this week is Library Journal's Day of Dialogue. So if you haven't registered, you should. It's free, and it's a virtual day of author programs and some author talks in virtual booths. HarperCollins will have a booth there, and it's a really neat event. So if you haven't gone before, check it out. Lainey, Grace, you want to talk a little bit about what we have going on?
sure. Do you like my background noise I gave for you? I'm your sound effects person now. Ta. Yeah, we have exciting things happening. I will talk a little bit about booth chats if Grace, you want to talk about our authors who are coming. So the booth chat. So if you haven't been to Day of Dialogue before, there's also time that you can take a break and go see people in their booths. We have a really fun booth for you. I'm not even going to show it because I'm so excited. I want you to come see it on the day of. But we've refreshed it a bit. And there you can click into our Zoom times, which are at 9, 12:30, and 3. And you can come talk to us live. We'll be there live with authors. So the first one is 9 to 9:30. Those virtual doors open. We're there with some books to buzz about. It'll just be the three of us chatting. So come say hi. And then in the second installment of our booth chat, we'll have 12:30 to 1. We're going to have Lou Burney and Lori Raider Day, which is wild. We love both of these authors so much. So come ask them a question. It'll be about 30 minutes. They'll talk about their book, and then we'll field some questions. And then the last one of the day is from 3 to 3:30 with Etaf Rum. And then the two authors of Rebecca Not Becky, Christine Platt, Catherine Wigginton Green. We're very excited. So, they're all live. They're all going to be there. It's not pre-recorded, so it'll be a treat. So stop by our booth and say hi.
Yeah, I'm so excited for the booth chats, but we also have a lot of great panelists for you all to hear from. And we have a few. So if I miss any, Lainey and Virginia, let me know. But I know we're going to be hearing from Jean Kwok, Ann Patchett, Laura Littman, Jonathan Latham, Tim O'Brien, Gail Sukiyama, and Patrick DeWitt. And we can throw in a schedule in the chat at some point, but I'm really excited for everyone to hear from those. It's a pretty stacked list, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, that's going to be good. So check out the whole schedule, check out our authors, and come talk to us in the booth. We'll do a quick half-hour, 25-minute buzz. We'll show you around the booth a little bit. It is really cool. Lainey came up with a super cool design, just a total rehash of the vibe of the booth. So it's awesome. It came together really, really great. So so we'll buzz books and then come back and meet these authors and ask them questions because it's all in real time. So that'll be fun. And then quickly, we want to talk about Writers to Watch, which is our monthly show that we have at night. So you can sit back, relax, work is over, put your feet up, maybe have a crocatoonie, and listen to some authors talk. And so we've got some wonderful authors coming on May 18th. Jonathan Latham, Jean Kwok, Dinah Jeffries, and Rachel Unreich. So we're going to have it's going to be really packed, rich content, incredible authors, great speakers, really lovely. We've met almost all of them. And so we hope that you come by too. So you can find out more about that on Library Love Fest or Facebook or Crowdcast. Now, let us bring on our special guest today, Mr. Juan Mila, who is the editorial director at Harper Via. Juan, you want to turn your camera on? Hello.
Hello, Virginia and Grace and Lainey. Thank you so much for having me on today. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, you're so kind and you're so wonderful. And we were really looking forward to this today. So thank you for making time in your schedule to talk with us and with everybody else about some of the books that you have coming up. I love that all of our backgrounds are virtual books and yours are real.
Yes, I'm in the office surrounded by our books.
I'm in my apartment surrounded by dirty laundry. So Juan, let me do a brief intro and then we're going to talk to you about Harper Via and some of the wonderful books that you have coming out. So let's see, 1 second here. Oh, I'm sorry, I have missed it. So hang on, because I need to make sure that I intro you correctly, Juan.
Oh,
Everybody will be excited to see Hula behind you. That was
yes.
a Library Reads bonus pick last month.
And on sale today. It's
Oh,
up day.
That author is lovely. We had her on Writers to Watch and she is just so wonderful. And boy, that book is like everywhere. She's everywhere. It's great. Congratulations.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Juan Mila, editorial director of Harper Via. We're going to learn more about that. And this is an imprint of the Harper One Group, which is a division of Harper. And this is you're publishing International Voices. Some of the recent titles that you have published, Juan, are The Cat Who Saved Books by Suzuki Natsukawa and The Enigma of Room 622 by Joel Decker. And you also acquire books for HarperCollins Espanol.
That's right.
And you were previously an editor at Salamandra in Spain. So much history and experience and book smarts do you bring to the table. And so we're honored that you've taken the time to speak with everybody today. So Juan, why don't you talk a little bit about Harper Via? Then we're going to show this really cool video that was shown at Harper's sales conference, which, you know, our sales conferences have been virtual. And, you know, that's, you know, wonderful because we can do it, but it's sort of, you know, let's face it, it's one-dimensional. This video that was shown, that you all showed during sales conference brought, I thought, well, a lot of people thought, the books and the authors to a whole new light, a whole new dimension, and it was just wonderful. I mean, so many people said, oh my God, that video is so amazing. So why don't you talk a little bit about Harper Via, then we'll show the video, and then we'll talk about some books we'll hear you talk about books that you're loving.
Fantastic. Thank you again. So Harper Via is a relatively new imprint at HarperCollins. It was created, I think, 5 years ago now. I think we've had 4 years of publishing books, and it's the brainchild of Judith Kerr when she started the Harper One group at HarperCollins, which comprises the Harper One eponymous imprint in San Francisco and HarperCollins Espanol and Amistad. And she wanted to do fiction in a different way, different books done differently. And she had experience with translation before. So we thought of this imprint that is focused on international books. This is a kind of a wide term of comprising both books written in English and translated from other languages, but all coming from different parts of the world, and using what the novel can do so well, which is allow us to connect through imagination and empathy with other ways of seeing the world and being in the world. And it includes pretty much everything. And the choices we have are so wonderful. There are so many wonderful storytellers and so wonderful stories out there that don't get to be read here. So we have a choice of so many wonderful books. And we're looking for books that are original and books that are authentic and that are culturally relevant. So, you know, we're not interested in kind of more of the same, but of looking for the ones that are truly special. And we've been publishing books from, I think, more than 23 languages now, 70 titles in these 5 years. And I have some statistics here in my, this is my latest updated Harpervia brochure, the one we used 2 weeks ago at the London Book Fair, where we met with international agents and editors and publishers, people from our network of international colleagues with whom we traffic in wonderful information about where the next wonderful stories may come from. And we made a page about Harpervia in numbers or something like that, Harpervia by the numbers. Here it is. And 70 originals, 58% of those in translation, 63 star trade reviews, 50 paperback published, 70 award-winning authors, 7 indie next picks, and 2 library read picks. Let's go. And book to screen adaptations, 13. And total titles in print, 204, because we're also counting the 100 or so, a little over 100 titles from the acquisition of HMH by HarperCollins. So many of those titles in translation came to Harpervia, and we have a wonderful backlist full of amazing books. Among them, Umberto Eco's The Name of the Rose, which we are republishing now with new covers that are amazing. Actually, sneak peek the new Eco covers. Ooh. You see them?
Yeah.
Anyway, this is Harpervia. Just let me tell you another thing. We made this kind of diagram, this drawing, or the 2 shelves with 3 categories of books, as if they had this little label from bookstore recommendation. And they're the 3 categories of books that we publish at Harpervia. No? So one is Love in Any Language. The other one is Crime Knows No Borders. And the third one is Fiction with Issues. So as you can see, this really is a wide way of describing the ambition of the imprint. So these are books that are very different. Some are more on the literary side, some less so. Some are a little bit of narrative nonfiction as well, but going to a broad audience, trying to make very clear that translation is not a genre. It's really just books that are written in other languages, and there are all kinds of books. So we're going to a broad audience.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
international voices. That's the idea.
That's the idea, and that's what's so beautiful about it. And as you said, I mean, books that you might not know, they're different. They're not cookie cutter. They're not the same. These are a whole new. It's a whole new collection of different points of view and different languages and different experiences. I love that you have it broken out into the different types of books. Maybe this might be a good time to show. Oh, Lainey, do you have a question?
I do. Someone wanted us to put those in the chat. So I had Fiction with Issues. I
Yes.
think, Love in Any Language. And what was the third?
Crime Knows No Borders.
Crime Knows No Borders. Okay, thank you.
Of course.
We actually have that booklet that was sent. We could share that.
Yes.
I mean, it was for the London Book Fair.
Yes.
Turned, but if that's okay, we could share that in the chat. Is that all right, Juan?
It is. It is. It actually is. I mean, it has it is kind of behind the scenes way of sharing the information, because it's the one we use to get submissions from international agents. But I think someone's interested, we can definitely share it.
Okay, I'm gonna send it off to Lainey. Yeah, here it is, Lainey. I'm gonna send it to you and to Grace. I'll send it to
Okay.
both. Huh?
Okay, I'll share it in the link.
Yeah,
Or
so
chat.
this is the brochure that Juan is referencing. So just keep in mind, everyone, this is dated because it is not, no, it's not dated old, but was specifically put together for the London Book Fair, which Juan just
Right.
came back from. So, but it gives you an idea. So there you go.
Yes.
And now I think I just sent that to both of you, so we can share it in the chat. If we can show the video. So again, this was a video that was shown from Harper Via during our sales conference. Everybody sits and we watch and recap what's coming up and what's the latest that we need to know about. And I just, again, and I'm not alone with this. I know that Grace and Lainey feel the same way, that this was really ingenious and very affecting and very powerful. So let's just go ahead and play that.
This is Emily Balistrieri, and I'm the translator of Tomihiko Morimi's The Tatami Galaxy. Let's just say I accomplished absolutely nothing during the 2 years leading up to the spring of my junior year in college.
I'm Anne Eekhout, author of Mary and the Birth of Frankenstein. Dit is het uur. Iedere nacht sterft ze, haar dochter. Ze ontdekt het pas in de ochtend, hoewel ze haar 's nachts heeft zien liggen. Zo rustig, hoofd vol van slaap.
Hello, my name is Gabriela Vina and I'm the author of I've Discovered, lo más extraño de estar aquí en París. En la sala de un museo etnográfico, casi debajo de la Torre Eiffel, es pensar que todas esas figurillas que se parecen a mí fueron arrancadas del patrimonio cultural de mi país por un hombre del que llevo el apellido.
Hi, I'm Isle McElroy, and I'm the author of People Collide. I'm not a responsible man. I'm not a brave man, which is not to say I am a coward, but no one would ever consider me brave.
Hello, my name is Alice Poog, and I'm the author of 100 Days. Ever since your grandpa left, your grandma and I share the same double bed.
I love
Very
that
cool.
video. And I love hearing authors read books in their own language. I think there's something really special about that. And in general, I think like translation is such an art. And I feel like some of my favorite books that I read this year were from Harper Via, including Walking Practice by Dole Min. That book that went on sale in January, and it was just phenomenal. And I think part of it was the fact that it was translated. I don't think it would have been the same.
Well, that's so wonderful to hear. That's the idea behind the imprint, that there's all kinds of books here, all kinds of exciting books, and that translation is just one dimension of them, but not what makes them what they are. You know, it's just something else, and it's great to see translation being increasingly more visible everywhere, and literary translators getting recognized and getting awards. Emily Balistrieri in the first video, who translated the two Tatami books, Tatami Galaxy and the sequel, was in town recently because she was a finalist for the PEN Translation Award, which is a big deal. And it's been amazing to see translators get recognition and get the work they do as kind of writers, because they need to find the way to rewrite the book in English. So it's not a mechanical thing, it's more like an artistic,
Like a puzzle.
yes, it is very much like a puzzle. And they are always such interesting partners for us. They know of interesting books, of interesting writers. They understand what the challenges in any book or any project are, and are incredibly helpful to us. a great community.
Yeah, so it's so nuanced. And yeah, as you say, it's not just some, it's it's almost like writing the book again, I guess, in a way.
Yes, I think they would agree with that characterization very much. There's so many decisions that go into translating a literary text. I think we're now putting the name of the author, the translator, on the cover, which I think is an important thing to do in a time in which maybe because of artificial intelligence, the work of literary translators is going to be even more recognized and seen as more valuable, because that's precisely what they can do as well as a writer.
Yeah. AI be damned, Juan. So,
Well, I think
Sorry.
you're, yeah.
I'm back. So do we want to talk about some of the books from some of the highlights from the forthcoming list that you're pretty jazzed about? And Grace put the jackets up there, so you want to just talk briefly about them, or just
Sure,
highlight them? I
absolutely.
mean, yeah.
Absolutely. Some of them are the ones in the video, and some others, like Gail Tsukiyama's The Brightest Star, are not in the video, but this is one of our big books for the next season. This is, I mean, you've heard about it, I know, and I just saw that she's going to be attending one of the sessions that you're organizing soon. She's really amazing. She was one of our first authors. Gail Tsukiyama published in Harper Via's second season of books, I think, The Color of Air. And as you know, The Brightest Star is a very timely book, with the story of Anna May Wong, the first truly international Asian American actress. And I think Gail Tsukiyama does such a great job of using her skills as a writer to really convey the aspirations and the amazing things in her life, but also the less amazing things, the challenges, and the amount of difficulty she had to overcome with such warmth and empathy. I think this is a big novel and comes at the perfect time, and she's the perfect writer for it. So really excited about publishing this story, which has the kind of the diasporic Chinese American story in it, which is another way for us to publish international books that have this international connection through immigration and that experience. So definitely, this is a big book for Harper Via this year. Very excited.
Yes,
and she's
lovely, as you say. She will be on on Day of Dialogue on Thursday. She'll be there, but also I think Grace just put into the comment box, Gail Tsukiyama was on our very first Writers to Watch program, and it was wonderful. And that Grace just put I think it was Grace, one of you guys, put the video in. So if you have time later to go back and watch it, because it's really wonderful, and she's just so lovely, and it's exciting.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Next. Oh.
Ooh, my husband, really excited about this one. This is a French novel that Gretchen Schmidt, who's an editor at Harper Via, brought with her actually when she was hired. And this is a really original French novel. It's a story about a wife obsessed with her husband. This is a French wife who lives in the outskirts of Paris, 2 children, and chapter after chapter, she goes into detail, deep into her obsession with being the perfect wife. And you can you can sense from the beginning that there's something strange and off and wrong in the story and how she tells it. And I think the author does an amazing job of keeping you hooked chapter after chapter until a big reveal at the end in this sort of suspenseful story of obsession that feels extremely French and extremely rich culturally, and yet completely universal and close to many sort of similar books of that suspense genre.
I read that book in 2 sittings, and I don't know what I was expecting, because I mean, obviously it was one of those like has a big surprise. So I think that's why the copy was short, which I'm glad it was, because that was quite the ending. It was just nothing that I expected in the best way. And I mean, she's a fantastic writer, and she did a little video for us for National Library Week last week. So I can throw that in the chat too. It was very sweet. So yeah, again, one of my favorite books from this year, another Harper Via book. So
it's great. Yes. And the early reviews that we are getting from readers and French readers, and it's a book that really like makes people write the review, if you know what I mean. One of those books that won't let you go without writing down your opinion, whether it's very positive or not so positive. You're like, you have to be part of the conversation. You are engaged into like talking about this book. It's like it made me love this part, or you know what I mean.
yeah, absolutely. I after reading it, I get exactly what you mean. And if you do want to read this one, do not look at Goodreads, because there you will find spoilers. Do not look at Goodreads, but it's amazing. So
yes, true. Very true. Right, and at the Time Machine Blues, this is the second book by Tomihiko Morimi that we're publishing after the Tatami Galaxy. A book by, edited by Alexa Frank, who's an editor at Harper Via, who reads Japanese, which is also something that I didn't mention, and it's important to us. Many of us read at least another language. We consider sort of linguistic diversity to be important for this kind of line of work, because we want to read fast and we want to really understand the nuances of the works in their original language. And Alexa could not believe that the Tomihiko Morimi books, which are very, very widely read in Japan and in other countries, and have inspired a big anime series, had not been translated into English. So she was able to acquire these 2 wonderful books, get them translated by a wonderful translator, and they're out there. The first book is out in the world, doing really well, a finalist for the Pen Translation Award. And again, this is perfect Japanese pop writing, joyfully positive literary writing, but also magnetic and magical in a way. These books are really special. This one again has the different sort of labyrinths and alternative realities that the protagonists navigate. So fun, very culturally relevant. If you're interested in things Japanese and manga, this is the book.
Love it. A lot of interest for this. Oh my God. Tongues are wagging for this book. This is so exciting too.
Mary and the Birth of Frankenstein. This has been such a fun book to edit. ever since I started working on this book, I see Frankenstein and monsters everywhere I look, everywhere I turn. It's no wonder that this story, this ghost story written more than 200 years ago, is still captivating us. It really touches on something that feels very, very much about the human nature and our imaginations. So this is Anne Eekhout, who is in the video reading the first sentence of the book. Is a Dutch author. She's published 4 books, I think, and she's an award-winning author in Holland, and a true storyteller where every book is different, and she's a natural storyteller. And she was visiting the John Keats Museum in Rome when she read something about the story of Mary Shelley before she wrote Frankenstein, a time she spent in Scotland with some family friends. And that sparked something, and she decided to tell this very English story through her Dutch eyes. And it's just a wonderful story. This is 2 times. It's very cleverly structured and paced. One is the time we all know, when during one summer, Mary Shelley and Percy Shelley and Lord Byron were all sitting around the fire at the just long nights in Geneva in a big house in a very rainy summer. And Lord Byron came up with the idea of asking everyone to write a ghost story. And we know that Mary's story was Frankenstein. And she goes back to 4 years before that, when she spent a summer in Scotland with some friends of family as a young 14-year-old. And she became friends and eventually became infatuated with this young woman her age. And they both sort of experience their anxieties about, I guess, growing up in a way, and their fears, and they share their nightmares and their kind of visions of monsters that they're not sure whether they are or not. And it's not entirely clear whether one of the characters is truly a monster. But anyway, you keep turning the pages, and I think I'm talking too much about it, but it's just because I love this novel so much. But anyway, it really goes into what went into Mary's development as a writer, in the way she uses imagination to come up with one of the stories that has endured about what makes us dream and have nightmares.
It's a great jacket too, Juan, I love the jacket.
I'm glad you think so. Yes, there a lot of work went into it, into getting that atmosphere.
Yeah, it's haunting.
The red eye, and
Yep.
and the flowers of the dress, the contrast with one of the Scottish serpent creature, like monster creatures from the Scottish folklore, somewhere in there. Yeah.
I love what you were saying.
Even the choice of color, like this blue is a particular kind of blue that was, it's called Prussian blue, and it was developed by a scientist who was actually called Frankenstein. So there is
Really?
Yes, there is a connection to.
How did you find that?
Yes.
Who found that?
If only we had a blue that was developed by somebody named Frankenstein. Wait, I know somebody. That's amazing.
This it's well, the way it's. Do you remember when I started by saying that when we started working with this book, then you start seeing Frankenstein and monsters everywhere you look.
Right.
There's a book by a Chilean author called Benjamin Labatut. Can't remember the title. It's a long title about the not knowing the world of the. Anyway, it's about the lives of scientists who pushed the limits of science and kind of almost to the end of reason. And one of the stories at the beginning of the book is about the German science who was more like an alchemist than a scientist who came up with this color for dyeing the uniforms of the Prussian army. That's why it's called Prussian blue. But his name was the actual Frankenstein, which is the name Mary took for her monster.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There should be
yeah.
I don't know. There's got, how there has to be some behind the book. There's got to be some behind the book stuff. We've got it. I mean, because they're fascinating stories. I mean, they're really.
This was a really special book. I mean, Mary Shelley was asked to write an introduction to the second edition of the book in 1831. And one of the things she felt she needed to respond to was the question of how could someone so young like you write a ghost story so powerful? Like, where did that come from? So she goes a little bit into that. And it's really quite fascinating. I mean, she was very young, but also extremely well-read and talented.
It's funny because I love you were saying that Frankenstein really captures us even today after all of these years. But what's funny to me is it was kind of written on a dare. She was told to make up this story, but all of these authors afterwards, like this author who had an idea that flared, like they're kind of doing the same thing. And I love that it keeps going.
Yes. Yes, I mean, don't get me started. I think that because it touches on imagination, which is actually what keeps us alive in a way, and human, because we can imagine what moves us, what we're afraid of, what everything comes from this kind of light that drives us. Yeah,
I love it.
That's great. Thank you, Warren.
Of course.
Yeah.
And discovered this Gabriela Wina, who is a Peruvian journalist, was also in the video reading the first sentence of this book. This is a sort of an autofiction, a novel that's really based on her experience. And this has been a huge book in Spanish language, in the Spanish language world. She has been all over, invited to all of the festivals to talk about it, because it's a great sort of conversation starter about so many timely topics. This is a story that she tells about how she's connected to a Austrian archaeologist who went to Peru 150 years ago and took back to Paris lots of artifacts from archaeological sites, and so basically pillaged all of these wonderful cultural artifacts. And she starts the book at a museum in Paris in which she's looking at this collection, and she recognizes herself in the faces painted on this ancient pottery. And that sort of starts this conversation about her connection to this man, and in a sort of very personal way. And it's tied with the fact that she has to go back to Peru when her father dies. And then she discovers how her father had a very rich life with a second wife and a second family. So it's also a story about absent fathers. And she is also struggling in her polyamorous relationship in Madrid, and with racism in Madrid, where she lives. She goes back and forth between Peru and Madrid. Anyway, I thought this is such an interesting book about all of these issues in such a personal way, that it's the perfect book to have this sort of conversation about post-colonial and the effect on oneself.
Oh, beautiful. Great conversation starter.
Ooh, and
Ooh.
people collide. The Al McElroy, amazing writing. In this case, a couple of young Americans teaching in Bulgaria, who wake up one day in the body of the other. The premise sounds crazy. The writing is so good. You absolutely believe the narrating voice in this novel from the very first moment. It's so nuanced and perceptive and compelling from the very first line. So culturally smart about these Americans in Bulgaria, and then one of them who wakes up and realizes he's in the body of his wife and has to, imagine all of the things that taking this from here for 250 pages, you're in for an amazing ride. And it's across Europe and full of amazing scenes. And again, I couldn't recommend this writing more. I think you'll be blown away.
And that author was also included in that video.
Yes.
I just want to read the keynote for this.
Yes.
From the acclaimed author of The Atmospherians, a fight club for the millennial generation, says Matt Johnson. A gender-bending, body-switching novel that explores marriage, identity, and sex, and raises profound questions about the nature of true partnership.
Yes. If you're still watching this video after listening to this and not trying to go get the book somewhere, although it's not out yet, but
well, yeah, it's coming out. It's coming out in September.
Yeah.
It will be well worth the wait. A lot of buzz about this book.
Mhm.
And talking to the publicist about this and how we can help in our part of the world with spreading the word about all of the books. But this one is really very.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of the discussion and a lot of buzz about this book. There already is. Yeah.
The eGalley is on NetGalley and Edelweiss, so you can request it and you won't regret it for sure.
Yeah, get it downloaded. Tell us what you think. It's exciting. And we have two more, Juan, to talk about?
Sure. Yes. Let's see. She's Alice is also in the video. She's Australian, very well-known Australian writer, rising star. And 100 Days is a mother-daughter drama, particularly interesting because it really takes place in one room. And it's a 16-year-old pregnant young woman in Melbourne, Australia, who is writing letters to her future son or daughter in this dispute with her mother. There's an ongoing drama with her mother, who's locked her in the room 100 days before the birth. So it's extremely intense, very moving. It's sort of a novel that could also have a sort of crossover potential for young readers, but wonderfully immersive and atmospheric and very gripping.
Yeah, Juan, am I muted? No, good. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that? So I was going to ask you to just mention, and you already did, that it's there's some YA young adult crossover appeal with this book.
Yeah, yes, and we've had other books like this. No, I'm thinking of Almond, for example. Remember the Korean book that we published also in our first year? Yes, even a short fable that we also published called "The Most Precious of Cargoes" that I keep recommending to people. It's such a beautiful, unusual Holocaust story, and it's also 100 pages.
That's another thing that I think we should really try and amplify is just that there are within this subset, and not that Harper V is a subset, but it is it's a wildly wonderfully separate from the rest, because it is so different, that within these collections of books are some really beautiful books that are appropriate for younger, not children naturally, but young adult readers. And I think that they can learn about other cultures and things, and at the same time it's not like they're it's within their accessibility.
Yes. Yeah. This is another example.
Another jacket that's super cool.
Courting Samira, yes. This is also Australian and an unusual one. It is an Australian rom-com found by Gretchen Schmid, the Harper V editor, who was really, really interested in looking for international romance that felt right for Harper Via, that had some originality to it. And in this case, it's within the. I mean, this is a 27-year-old Palestinian Australian protagonist who works in a magazine and finds herself involved in a love triangle. Perfectly sort of fun rom-com, but with a lot of added cultural unusual value here. An interesting community, a very much an insider way of telling the story within this Muslim community in Australia, with a very nuanced kind of way of experiencing being Muslim in the novel, which I think makes it a perfect Harper Via book.
Absolutely.
And Stockholm, this is a novel from Israel by Noah Yetlin, a very funny novel. This is I love the old friends die hard tagline here. The main premise, the premise of the novel is that the fifth friend, who's a very well-known scientist, gets finally the call from Sweden announcing the Nobel Prize, with one problem: he just died. So they all conspire, each one of them for different reasons, to pretend to try to kind of pretend that he's alive for a few more hours so he can receive the prize. And they all have different reasons for why they want that, but it's full of not just this sort of very funny, darkly that humorous tone, but also wisdom and something really charming about this group of older friends. So highly recommend it. It's also unlike no other novel you will find in bookstores this fall.
I love this cover. It's great.
Yeah,
The line "Old friends die hard." I think that's awesome.
it's a great list, Juan. It's a, shows the breadth of, the publishing program and the voices, which we started out with, listening to various authors, just reading a line or two from their books. And I think this just illustrates, everything that Harper Via stands for, translation, and it's great stories, and they're from around the world. And I think it's just wonderful. This has been great to just learn more about the list, more about Harper Via and how these books come to be. And I don't know, are there any questions from outside? A lot of watchers today from all over the place. Is there anybody who's got questions or comments that have written in, Lainey and Grace? Before they were just like, send us the brochure. We want to see this. What did they say about that? So it's great.
Somebody asked if we think that 100 Days could be a mother-daughter book club pick. I would think so. Lots to discuss there.
Yes, in the sort of intense side of things, but I think that's a good, yeah.
And then somebody also was wondering, so if we use the term new adult for 100 Days, if it's like an older YA audience or what we're thinking there.
I agree. Yeah, older YA since,
Okay.
yeah.
Just lots of Harper Via love in the chat.
Oh.
Lots
Somebody said that it's long overdue that translators go on the cover. They're very excited about that.
Yes. I mean, I can't tell you how integral to our project they are. They are not just one part. They are an important part of the process.
So our friend Lillian Dabney wants to, I know we talked a little bit about the London Book Fair, but if there's anything you want to say about, what countries you want to represent in the future or how you come across international authors. I know you've already spoken a little bit about it, but
in many different ways. And of course, we are interested in broadening this the number of countries and languages, and not just translate from the languages or countries that have a strongest publishing industry or more sort of cultural prominence. We again, we try to find books where we can, and we are necessarily sort of like reacting in a way or trying to find the ones that are going to work best with what we have. But our intention, and each of us is trying to look in a specific area to try to make this happen, to kind of go beyond what's being done already and try to open up the world of translation in interesting ways. But it's also what we can see, what reaches us, what comes through our network of international contacts. We have scouts in some countries that are looking for things that they think may, resonate and work in other languages. But it takes time, and it takes this collaboration of people who are working in the same sort of wavelength of cultural connections. But yes, we're hoping to find more interesting, fresh stories from all over.
yeah, I remember at one meeting, who knows when it was, there's so many, but you had put a map up of all the stories, and I hope you continue to do that because I thought it was really cool to see just the scope of everything.
We We absolutely do. And I think if anyone wants to look at the
Nice.
brochure, we always update the map in the brochure with all the languages to show this effort, no? To go beyond the few best known languages, and
I put it in the chat so everybody can take a look at the map. Thank you.
yes.
That's great representation all over. Yeah. Juan, I think you mentioned there was a book that you all published I just looked it up because I didn't remember what year it was.
Mhm.
Almond.
Yes.
We're talking about books that are good for YA crossover and coming of
Yeah.
age stories, which are my favorite. If anybody hasn't read that book, that's a Harper Via book that came out. I think it came out in 20 or 21.
Yeah, I think 20. Yeah.
20 in hardcover and paper
Yeah.
in 2021.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. It is such a heart-rending tale about this boy who he is born with a condition called alexithymia, and it's the inability to identify or express emotion. So he's got Post-it notes all over his room that tell him when he's supposed to say thank you, when he's supposed to smile, because he doesn't know how to feel. And so it's just an incredible story about this kid that's gotten short shrift to begin with because he can't feel emotions. And then on top of it, something happens in his family and he's on his own. Let's put it that way. And he's still young. He's like 16 years old. And it's just got so much love. It got a lot of starred reviews. It got a lot of love from, publications like the Entertainment Weekly and Salon and all that. But honestly, if you haven't read Almond, Almond, and almond is the two almond-shaped neurons that are deep in his brain that cause this alexithymia, however you say it. And that's why he's unable to identify emotion, how he's really supposed to feel in this new world that he has to navigate, and it's beautiful. I don't know, Eleni or Grace, could you even put that in the chat? People could check it out. Again, it came out in 2020, the paperbacks, and it's the author's name is Won Pyung Son.
Yes.
Okay.
Wonderful writer. We will publish a new novel by her in the future. Yes.
Oh, good.
And I think also readers really made this title one of Harper Via's best-selling titles. Kept growing and growing, and based on readers' recommendations. And then at one point we saw a big uptick because a Korean K-pop superstar posted a photograph.
Oh, is that
itself
right? Really?
with the book, and it was very noticeable.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So much so that we included the statistic in our Harper Via by the numbers. We have K-pop superstar favorites.
Oh, I
One.
didn't know that. Oh, that's so great.
Yes.
We just got to get K-pop stars to take all the Harper Via books.
Exactly.
Can stand well on their own because they are gorgeous on the outside and even more gorgeous on the inside. Juan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about these wonderful books. The time flew, and we've got lots of people watching and might be taking notes, and that's great. And anything that Harper Via can do for libraries, let us know. We're all
Will
in the
do.
game together.
Thank you so much again, and thank you to everyone watching. Thank you for your interest, and bye-bye.
Bye, Juan. See you again soon. Wait, before you go, Juan, do we have any more questions, or are we good? Did we get to everybody?
I think so. I think there's just a lot of love. Yeah.
Okay. So Grace, Laney, before we say goodbye to Juan, anything you guys need to say?
Thanks for being here. I always, like I said, I love Harper Via books. Will read anything that's been translated. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's keep in touch. More great stuff to come.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks again, Juan. We'll see
Thank you.
soon. Okay, take good care.
You
Goodbye,
too.
everyone. And don't forget, we have Day of Dialogue on Thursday, so you can see some of the authors that we talked about today, including Gail Tsukiyama. And then Writers to Watch on May 18th. So all that info is in the